Recording in progress.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi Yahya.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Alhamdulillah, inshallah, we'll be starting our journey of Duroos al-Lughat al Arabiyyah or Duroos al-Lughat al Arabiyyah. The full name of the book, Duroos al-Lughat al Arabiyyah لغير الناطقين بها. Duroos al-Lughat al Arabiyyah لغير الناطقين بها. Which basically means al-Lughat al Arabiyyah means Arabic language. Duroos means lessons. So lessons on Arabic language. Number one is part one, there's part two, and there's also a part three after that. So it's Arabic language lessons. لغير الناطقين بها translates as for non-Arabs, or for people that do not speak Arabic. Now this author that's compiled Duroos al-Lughat al Arabiyyah, the original version, not the English format, the original version, it explains everything in the introduction of this English format anyway. The author actually compiled it for non-Arabs. So for non-Arabs to introduce in steps, gradual, baby steps you can say, gradual steps, to introduce Arabic language to them. Sometimes the author, he breaks things down very small steps, especially in book one. Book two and book three gets more advanced. But book one, and especially in the first 5-10 chapters, the chapters are very basic. But the idea is, once you get used to the basic chapters, it'll become easier as you get onto the more challenging chapters. So it's important not to think of the basic chapters as too basic, because it definitely is building you for the more challenging chapters which are coming later. Now, in regards to the first, you can read the introduction, etc. that's mentioned above. You can read it in your own time. So it'll just give you an idea of what the book is for. But Duroos al-Lugha, in the context of Arabic language, you have three main components before you get into more advanced Arabic. The three main components of Arabic language, I would say, at least for basics, for beginners, is, I would say, number one, Nahu. That's Arabic grammar. Arabic grammar. Number two, Sarf. That's Arabic morphology, verb scales or scales of different words. So when you study the science of Sarf, you realize that more and more. And number three, and by the way, both of these loosely you can just call Arabic grammar. And number three is Lugha, or the language, the actual language. So for that, you would normally have a good book, interesting book of just Arabic text, which builds your Arabic language. Now that's three different sciences. Now our author in Duroos al-Lughat, he tries to merge that. If not in book one, more so over book 2 and 3, but he tries to merge that. And how he does that is basically there'll be some random lessons on Nahu, there'll be some random lessons on Sarf, and yes, there will be constant Arabic language being used throughout the book. So the purpose of the author is he gives you a taste of all three of the sciences. Now that's the advantage. Now either you can call this as a disadvantage, or it's just the intention of the author, so it's what is. Sometimes the Nahwa lessons may not be in a format, in a structure. Similarly, Sarf, it might not be in a normal structure. It might be a bit random. Because the purpose of the author was never to make a structured Nahwa textbook or a Sarf textbook. Rather, it was to build essential components of Arabic language slowly over time, over lessons. Is that clear, Yahya?
Yeah, that's clear.
Any questions so far?
No questions.
Okay. So now what we'll do is we'll just focus on each lesson and take it as it is. We'll build gradually through each lesson. Inshallah, in every session, we'll be doing one lesson. And like that, we'll go through the full book. And then inshallah, over on to Duroos part 2 as well in future. So first, lesson 1. Now, this is the same system for every lesson. So I'll just explain at the beginning. Now, first, the original book. This is the original book, where the author basically explains his lesson, which I'll soon be explaining what the purpose of the author is in each text, in each part. Then after the lesson, the author brings exercises, sometimes 1, sometimes 2, sometimes 3 exercises. Then down here, he's actually got a second part to the lesson 1 as well. Further exercises. And thereafter, this is where the original book finishes. But in the version we have, there will then be 1 side or sometimes 2 sides of notes of the chapter. So when I explain, when I teach this book, I'll first go through the notes, which is not part of the original work. That's why it's not at the beginning. But we'll first go through the notes. And then we'll also go through the vocab list, which has been added on as well. It's not part of the original book. And in the vocab list, it's important all students, they learn the vocab for the next session before we move on to the next lesson. In fact, when you even start studying the same chapter, your own self, the first thing you should do is go through the overall of the chapter, the outline of the chapter, then learn the vocab, and only then start going through the actual book and the chapter. Is that okay?
Ji.
Yeah. So now let's start the book. Lesson 1. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. So by the way, I won't be repeating this explanation for every chapter, but this is a structure that you need to keep in mind. This is the structure of the book. So now, lesson 1, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ad-Darsul Awwal. Ad-Darsul Awwal, lesson 1. Ad-Darsul Awwal, lesson 1, the first lesson. The first lesson is regarding the word, the Arabic word, Hada. 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 Which some people write it, by the way, as Hada. That's okay. We'll learn over time writing in different ways, but generally we'll stick to this way. So Hada. Now, what does Hada mean? What is Hada? Why don't we just skip to the rules page or to the overview page and first understand everything from there, and then we'll come back to the text. So yeah. So in regards to Hada, there's a main lesson here. So you have a main lesson, and then you have a sub lesson, 1 or 2 sub lessons here. Let's focus on the main lesson first. So the main lesson is about Hada. Hada means this. So the translation of Hada is this. And in regards to Hada, what is it used for? Hada is used for indicating upon male, masculine, thing or person that is close by. So the 3 words I've highlighted or circled, those are the 3 key words. So Hada is used for indicating. So indicating. By the way, in Arabic, we call that ishara. 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 And by the way, it's a noun, which you study this more in Arabic grammar books. And over time, you'll study it. So if some of these things is a bit too much right now, don't worry. You'll pick it up over time. So it's used for indicating, ishara, and it's a noun. A noun in Arabic is called ism. So this will be a ism ishara or ismul ishara. Ismul ishara. So it's an indicating noun. What does it indicate to? It indicates to a male that's close by. So male that's close by, or masculine thing that's close by. Now, I'll give an example before I move on. The word babun, door. In Arabic, if you talk about the word door, so open the door for me. The Arabic for that is babun. Now, babun, I'm telling you right now, that's masculine. Now, you'll say, oh, but how do I know if it's masculine? So that you'll pick up with Arabic language over time. So babun is masculine. So at this stage, the students will think, oh, but how do I know babun is masculine? What if it was feminine? Don't worry about that right now. Right now, the book will tell you if it's masculine or feminine, because it's too early for you to know how to decide when something is masculine or feminine. But I'm telling you right now that babun is masculine. So because I've told you babun is masculine, imagine I want to indicate to a door and I want to say this door. So I'll say hadal bab, or if I want to say this is a door, I'll say hada babun. This is a door. Okay, so before we move on, Yahya, pen in Arabic is qalamun. 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 So if I want to say this is a pen, what will I say?
هذا قلم.
هذا قلم. هذا قلم. So it's used to indicate, hada is used to indicate to something which is masculine, and it has to be close. This door, this pen needs to be close. If the pen is, for example, so many meters away, or the door is a mile away, then you won't use hada, you'll use dhalika. That will come in a later lesson. Ignore that for now. Another side note here, someone will say, but what's close and what's far? When will you decide that, oh, this is close, this is far? Well, there's no rule in Arabic language for that. That you need to make a judgment. Each individual needs to make a judgment. That's speaking. Would you regard this as close or far? You or the general public, they would need to make a judgment on that. Then, now point number 2, bullet point 2. Hada is actually pronounced, so it's written as hada like that, but it's actually pronounced with a, like hada, with the alif after the ha, which if you write it, break it down, it's like this, hada. So not hada, rather hada. So there's like a, in pronunciation, there's an alif after the ha, but you don't write it. You just pronounce it like that, because there's a lot of times where alif, that's an alif, where an alif in Arabic language, it won't be noted down, but it's a silent alif, or in terms of, no, it's an alif that you actually say, but you don't write it. So it's just in Arabic language, there's many times where you don't write the alif, although you say it. Again, alif rules will be learned in more advanced sessions. So it's pronounced as hada with an alif after, but you don't write the alif. Finally, third point. So hada masjidun, masjid means mosque. This is a masjid. Hada is a ismul ishara, indicating noun. And the noun that indicates upon, what is it indicating upon? Masjidun. Masjidun is what we call al-mushar ilay, indicated upon, That's what that translates as, indicated upon. But you don't need to learn the translation, you need to start learning the Arabic, al-mushar ilay. So if you go to our example, hada babun is what?
It's the mushar ilayh.
Is the mushar ilay. You don't need to say al, you can say if you want, but you can just say mushar ilay. And hada is the ismul ishara. Similarly, qalamun will be the
mushar ilayh.
It's indicated upon. Then, any questions about the main lesson, Yahya?
No questions regarding it.
If you can repeat in your words the main lesson.
So we learned the word hada, it means this, and the pronunciation, it may look different to how we actually say it. That's because there's a hidden alif there that makes it pronounced as hada, and that happens a lot of times in certain words in the Arabic language. Then we learned about hada, the word itself, and it's used for, well, there's 3 usages for it, like when it's used, so 3 reasons. So it's used for a thing which is when it's indicating on something, we call that ishara in Arabic. So it's used for ishara, for indicating, and it's used for something which is masculine. So as opposed to something which is feminine, Arabic words are either feminine or masculine. Hada is used specifically just for masculine words, and then it's also used for something which is close by, not something which is far. So just like in the English language, this is used for something which is close by. And then we learned that, so if hada, that's the thing which is pointing, that's the ishara, we call that ismul ishara, and the thing that it's pointing to is called the mushar ilay. So in the example given, hada masjidun, the hada, as seen in that box, is ismul ishara, and the masjidun is the mushar ilay.
Very good, mashallah. Now let's go on to sub-lesson 1. In sub-lesson 1, it mentions regarding what we call tanween. So in Arabic language, you will have the dhamma, fatha, and kasra. So dhamma, fatha, and kasra. You'll see the usage of that much more over time. Dhamma, fatha, and kasra. But if it's just a single dhamma, or single fatha, or single kasra, we just refer to that as single dhamma, single fatha, and single kasra. However, if you have the same thing, but as a double, and a double dhamma, you write it like this. Double fatha, you write it with a double fatha and double kasra, with 2 lines rather than 1. The double fatha or the double dhamma or the double kasra, that's called tanween. So the double fatha, dhamma, kasra is called tanween. And tanween is normally used to translate something as with a. You know how we say, look, if you look at the example, Khalid came with a book. So in English, we have a book. In Arabic, there's no such thing that corresponds to the a. Rather, it's the tanween. So ja'a Khalidun, ja'a means to come. Khalid is a name. So Khalid came, ma'a means with. So Khalid came with a book, kitabin. Notice the tanween there. Why was double kasra? That you learn in grammar books. But I want you to focus on the fact that it was a tanween. So in that tanween, ma'a kitabin, with a book. So rather than with the book, we translate it as with a book or with a book. Why? Because the tanween corresponds to the meaning of a or a book. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's clear.
Now on the note, it's just a side note, or there's two side notes. Literally, you move on the side to understand these side notes. So any noun with a tanween upon the last letter. So if a word has a tanween on the last letter, that was the case with kitab, that's generally a sign it's a common noun, not a proper noun. It's a common noun, not a proper noun. And in Arabic, you call that nakira. In Arabic, you call that nakira. Nakira. It's there. Nakira. So non-specific noun or common noun. Then, by the way, you might have a question now. Oh, so if it has a tanween, it's a common noun. The word Khalid also has a tanween. Is Khalid a common noun or is it a specific person's name?
It's a
Yahya,
specific.
would you specific person's name? So obviously that's a specific noun. It's not common. So that's why it says except proper nouns. For example, people's names, they can also have tanween, but they will be specific. They will not be regarded as common nouns. Then this is just a note at this stage. Just remember that in grammar books, that will come in a more structured way. Even throughout Duroos, you'll pick that up in more detail. There's just, you can say, a lot of information overload in that small note at this stage. A second note, not all tanweens will have the meaning of a in a translation. So, we said tanween normally has a translation of a or a, so a book. But that's not a necessary rule. Sometimes it might not be translated. For example, the word maftuhun, even though it has tanween, if I put tanween, then maftuhun just means open. It doesn't mean a open. So imagine you said al-babu maftuhun. Al-babu maftuhun. The door is open. So al-babu maftuhun. The door is open. You won't say the door is a open. In English, obviously people will laugh at you if you say that. Rather, it's the door is open. Correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Done. Now moving on to sublesson 2. Sublesson 2. Sublesson 2 is an introduction to 3 different types of particles. Man, ma, and a. Man, ma, and a. And it tells you when to use each one. So man, if you go through the example that's there, man hadha rajul. So man hadha rajul. So man hadha rajul. That translates as who is this man? So question mark. All 3 are used for questioning. So all 3 are used for a question. So man hadha rajul. Who is this man? Ma hadha al-kitab. The second one is ma hadha al-kitab. What is this book? What is this book? Is it a grammar book? Is it a morphology book? Is it a tafsir book? Is it a hadith book? What is this book? So when do you use each one, man and ma? First, let's concentrate on them two. So man is used for human or intelligent beings. And intelligent is just humans, by the way. So man is used for humans. Rational beings, humans. Ma is used for non-humans. So that's the first thing. So man is used for humans and ma is used for non-humans. So if you are asking a question about who is this, what is this, if it's based on humans, male or female, but if it's based on humans, then it's man. And if it's non-humans, you say ma. Is that clear?
Yep, that's clear.
Now, next part. If I asked, you, man hadha rajul. So imagine I was pointing at Yusuf and I said, man hadha rajul, who is this man? What will you reply?
Yusuf.
Yusuf. Will you say yes? Will you say no?
You would.
So imagine I
Really?
said to you, imagine I
Mhm.
said to you, who is this man? So in English, would you say yes?
Nope.
Or would you say no? Or would you just say his name, Yusuf?
Just say his name.
Okay. So when you ask any question with man and ma, who is this man or what is this thing? You would never answer with yes or no. So you would never answer with yes or no. Rather, you'll answer with a detailed answer. Detailed answer just means his name or something else. You won't say na'am, la, yes, no. Rather, you'll basically answer with something further. Whereas with now let's concentrate on ahadha rajul. So ahadha rajul or ahadha al-kitab. So ahadha rajul or ahadha al-kitab. Is this a man or is this a book? So is this a man or is this a book? So ahadha rajul or ahadha al-kitab. So imagine I asked you pointing at some human being. Imagine I was pointing at Yusuf and I asked you, is this a man? Is this a male? What will you say?
You would say yes.
Yes. So with the usage of you can use that for humans and non-humans. So can be used for humans plus non-humans. So have you seen the difference between and man and ma? Man and ma, man was used for humans, ma was used for non-humans. Whereas can be used for both humans and non-humans. But with when you ask a question with the interrogation or the question is such that the answer will require na'am or la. Na'am means yes, la means no. So is this a book? Imagine I'm pointing to a pen and I say, is this a book? What will you say?
No.
No or la. Done. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's clear.
Any questions on that, Yahya?
No questions regarding that.
Okay. So if you can just recap the sub-lessons.
Yeah. So the first sub-lesson we learned was on tanween, and that's the idea of something pronounced with double. So double dhamma, double fatha, double kasra. And so we learned straight away that in Arabic there's no word itself that is equivalent to just the English letter A. So this is a book, or Khalid came with a book. There's nothing in Arabic which corresponds to that. But we learned that to give that meaning of a, then the way to do that is to give a word a tanween. The word tanween creates that same meaning. So in the example, جاء خالد مع كتاب. So the it means Khalid came with a book. So ma'a kitabin, ma'a means with, and kitab means book. So because kitabin is ending in a tanween, it has a double kasra, then you translate it as with a book. And we also learn that we call those words that have tanween, that are translated with a before it most of the time, we call those words nakira. So a nakira word means that usually they have tanween and they are translated with a. But at the end, we also learn a note that you don't always translate a word with a before it. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. For example, the word maftuhun is given, so you'd say al-babu maftuhun, the door is open. You won't say the door is a open. It just doesn't make sense in the English language. So sometimes you won't translate a nakira word with a before it. The second sub-lesson was regarding questioning. And so we learned there's 3 different types of questioning: man, ma, and So the first two, man and ma, those are usually no, yes, they're not a yes or no answer question. They'll require a phrase or a word as an answer. So man is used just like it's translated as who. So just like in the English language, it's used for intelligent beings, it's used for humans. And ma, it's used for objects, just like in the English language, as it translates to what. So man hadha rajul, who is this man? So you would give a name usually. And ma hadha kitab, what is this book? You would answer with what the book title is, or you'd answer in an appropriate way. However, when you ask a question with so ahada kitabun, is this a book? So just like how do you imagine in the English language, then you'd usually respond with a yes or no answer. And now when we learn in Arabic that the word yes is na'am and the word no is la. And so those are the two main responses that you begin with when answering a question that begins with
Very good, mashallah. May Allah increase your knowledge. Very good overview. Now, I would actually request all the students that before you move on now, pause, read over the rules yourself, and read them aloud, just like Yahya read them loud. Try to engage with it. If you say it once, even if it means you're just saying it to the wall in front of you, to the screen in front of you, but at least your mouth will start opening up to the Arabic language if you start saying it loudly like this. So it's very important not just to understand it, to actually say it and speak it. When you speak it, then you actually understand it better, and your tongue, your mouth, your body, you start feeling the confidence of saying the Arabic loudly. So even Yahya, if in your own time, if you can practice this more and more, inshallah.
inshallah.
Now, before we go into the lesson again, so we're starting at Duroos al-Awwal. This was the overview. Now let's go through the vocab. The vocab will be very straightforward. I'll just be saying the vocab. Yahya, you'll repeat it, and then you learn it like that. All the students will repeat it and then learn it. And you should do that before you actually start doing the actual lesson. It's always good to learn the vocab first. It's very straightforward vocab. So let's start with the first word, masjid. So we're going to start from the right side. In Arabic, you start from the right side. So masjidun, masjid. Rajulun, man. Qalamun, pen. So by the way, it's got no tanween. You don't need to say it, but it's good to say it in that way. It's just a good way to learn the words in that way. These are all nouns, by the way. Masjidun, masjid. Rajulun, man. Qalamun, pen. Qittun, qittun, cat. Sarirun, bed. Jamalun, camel. Qamisun, shirt. Mindilun, mindilun, handkerchief. Waladun, child. Babun, door. Tajirun, businessman. Miftahun, key. Yahya, if you can repeat that line.
Masjidun, masjid. Rajulun, man. Qalamun, pen. Qittun, cat. Sarirun, bed. Jamalun, camel. Qamisun, shirt. Mindilun, handkerchief. Waladun, child. Babun, door. Tajirun, businessman. Miftahun, key.
Very good. Himarun, donkey. Kursiyun, chair. Dikun, rooster. Tabibun, doctor. Baytun, house. Talibun, student. Kitabun, book. Kalbun, dog. Maktabun, writing table. Hisanun, horse. Najmun, star. Mudarrisun, teacher. Yep, Yahya, if you can repeat that.
Himarun, donkey. Kursiyun, chair. Dikun, rooster. Tabibun, doctor. Baytun, house. Talibun, student. Kitabun, book. Kalbun, dog. Maktabun, writing table. Hisanun, horse. Najmun, star. Mudarrisun, teacher.
Very good, mashallah. Any questions regarding the words? All you need to now do, take out time. I would say before you go into the exercises and the actual text of the lesson, try to learn all of these words. Learn 2, 3, 4 at a time. Go over them. The way to learn them is 2, 3, 4 words. Go over them. Don't worry about if you forget them afterwards. Just the fact that you've learned it once, over time, these words will be repeated a lot. So once it's repeated a lot, then automatically it'll help in that way, inshallah. Yep.
Yeah, inshallah.
Okay. Now let's go on to the actual text. So ad-Dars al-Awwal. But for today, we'll stop at this stage. Inshallah, we'll start ad-Dars al-Awwal in the next session. Yep.
Yep, inshallah.
So if you notice in ad-Dars al-Awwal, all of these words that came, baytun, masjidun, babun, kitabun, I'll be explaining that all in the next session. It's important to first get the overview of the chapter done and the word and the vocab done. Once we've done that, now inshallah, the next stage will be very straightforward, very easy. We'll be applying these rules that we've learned and also the vocab onto our session, onto our book, actual book. Any questions, Yahya?
No questions.
Jazakallah khairah. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.